Okay, sorry about the presentation style. This is the best I can do because I haven't got an internet connection. So this, I just want to go over this exchange between Elon Musk and an audience member at one of these, some lecture or other he's given, okay? And, okay, let's just watch it. They're talking about, you know, the idea that we're in a simulation.
There's a sort of a philosophic concept that a sufficiently advanced civilization will be able to create a simulation.
Right, number one, he's framing the question, okay? He's saying a sufficiently advanced civilization would be able to create a simulation. That's not actually the theory behind the simulation, right? The theory behind the simulation is this a simulation or is it not? It's nothing to do with a sufficiently advanced civilization creating a simulation. It would be, in religious terms, something like a god or the demiurge that has created the simulation. Okay, that goes into a different subject. But one, he's framing the question in a disingenuous manner. It's nothing to do with a sufficiently advanced civilization creating a simulation, okay?
Yeah, maybe you've answered this before? A simulation.
I've had so many simulation discussions, it's crazy.
Okay.
I've had so many simulation discussions, it's crazy. So Elon Musk is doing something like, it's like Russell Brand sits or stands in a room full of drunk people who laugh at the famous man on television using lots and lots of big words. And Elon Musk does the opposite. He's I've had so many discussions about this. I've kind of lost track of it. Like, he's got such a big brain. He's got such a big brain. He's thought about it so much. He's spoken about it so much that he's not going to give you a coherent answer. Just take it from him. He's thought about it so much. He's the big brain that thinks about the simulation all the time, that you just have to take his word for it.
So, because
in fact, it got to the point where basically every conversation was the AI/simulation conversation, and my brother and I finally agreed that we would ban such conversations if we were ever in a hot tub. Okay. That was like that really kills the magic.
So.
Yeah, just answer the fucking question. Are we in a simulation or not? And what are the arguments for us either A, yes, or B, not being in simulation? Answer the question.
So the idea is, right, any sufficiently advanced civilization could create a simulation.
No, you're wrong.
Like our existence. And so the theory follows that
no,
maybe we're in the simulation. Have you thought about?
As I've already explained, that's wrong anyway, and we'll go.
Listen,
a lot.
A lot. My big brain thinks about it a lot.
Are we?
Even in hot tubs. So much so it had to be banned from a hot tub.
Shtick.
Okay.
It's not the sexiest conversation.
Are we in? Are we in?
I mean, I think here's the strongest argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following.
Right, listen carefully to this. The strongest argument for us being in a simulation is the following. Here we go.
That 40 years ago, we had Pong, like 2 rectangles and a dot. That was what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year.
So he's talking about video games, right? Video games have advanced. Now he's assuming, as he goes on with this argument, he's kind of putting forward and assuming that humanity is progressing. Okay, that's what he's put forward with this example of video games, that humanity, we're on this stage of progressing all the time. Now, number one, I'd argue that's completely wrong. If you look at music, literature, comedy, architecture, the general behaviour of people in daily life, I would suggest we are regressing, we are not progressing. there are certain technological advances that are happening, but we're actually not progressing in any way, shape or form. Actually, progression, when you look at cars going to electric vehicles, a progression would be going back to horse and cart. That would be my idea of progress. Anyway, I completely refute his assumption that we're progressing. Anyway, that's his argument. Let's go on.
Soon we'll have virtual reality, we'll have augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality.
Right.
Just indistinguishable.
The games will become indistinguishable from reality. Right.
Even if that rate of advancement drops by 1,000 from what it is right now, then you just say, okay, well, let's imagine it's 10,000 years in the future, which is nothing in the evolutionary scale. So given that we're clearly on a trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers with set-top boxes, it would seem to follow that.
Seem to follow.
The odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
So that's his argument, is that if you assume that we're going to produce games that are indistinguishable from reality, played by billions of people, he's then saying it follows that the odds that we are in base reality now are 1 in billions. This is a completely false argument. I'll explain why in a second.
So
tell me what's wrong with that argument.
Is the answer yes?
The argument is probably. I just like. Is there a flaw in that argument?
I mean, someone.
Right. Let me give you the flaw in the argument, Elon. Because we are in base reality, right? We are in base reality. Forget all this rubbish about atoms, the table, the computer, the walls, they're just atoms spinning at a certain, your David Icke argument, they're just atoms spinning at a certain vibration and there's actually nothing there because there's more space between atoms than there are atoms in the universe, therefore nothing is real. No, we are in base reality, right? So even if you have this scenario where you produce video games, billions of people using video games that are indistinguishable from base reality, all that means is that you have a video game within base reality that is indistinguishable from base reality. But that video game that is indistinguishable from base reality exists in base reality. That's the argument against, that you're kind of like glossing over and saying, oh my God, nobody can argue with. That's the argument against it, because it's in base reality. It's quite simple. We are in base reality, and maybe you can produce these games in base reality. That does not in no way does it logically follow that because you produce a video game that can mimic base reality, that computer game is then equal to base reality. When you have Grand Theft Auto, using the same logic, when you have Grand Theft Auto, does Elon Musk believe that when I turn Grand Theft Auto off, if I had it or played it, when I turn it off, does it still exist? Does Grand Theft Auto, do the characters in Grand Theft Auto exist, walking around, drinking coffee and driving around in cars and shooting people? Of course it doesn't. That's what his argument is. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I'm not sure what the error.
No, the argument makes sense.
No, the argument doesn't make sense, and Elon Musk is saying he's not sure where he can see the error. The error, you can see the error in 2 seconds
The
flat.
assumption then is that somebody beat us to it, and this is a game.
No,
No, there's a 1 in billions chance that this is base reality.
Oh, okay. What do you think?
Well, I think it's 1 in billions.
Okay.
I mean, that seems to be like clearly what the, you know, what it suggests. Right? And actually, I mean, arguably, we should hope that that's true, because otherwise, if civilization stops advancing, then that may be due to some calamitous event that erases civilization. So maybe we should be hopeful that this is a simulation, because otherwise,
So they could reboot it.
well, otherwise, either we're going to create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality, or civilization will cease to exist. Those are the two.
it's just absolute, complete garbage. Absolute garbage. Vox Media. It's similar. He's really evading the actual concepts and the actual problems with the idea of the simulation. It's like what these people do. There's another example. I mean, Ricky Gervais, like the comedian Ricky Gervais, he had a discussion with Carl Pilkington, and Carl Pilkington's like he's Ricky Gervais's little fall guy. This guy from Manchester, and Ricky Gervais is having this discussion with Carl Pilkington, explaining the nature of infinity. And Ricky Gervais says he brings out this example, which he's probably got from a book somewhere, some atheist book, and he says that the nature of reality, the nature of infinity, he says, if you get an infinite amount of monkeys typing on an infinite amount of typewriters, that eventually the infinite amount of monkeys typing on the infinite amount of typewriters will produce the works of Shakespeare. And it's completely wrong. This example is completely wrong. If you had an infinite amount of monkeys typing on an infinite amount of typewriters, then for infinity you would get an infinite amount of monkeys not producing the works of Shakespeare. For infinity. I just find this whole thing very disingenuous, and I believe I've just destroyed this guy's argument. It doesn't take 2 seconds to see the flaws in it. So there you go. Thank you. End of video.